Up to our worked examples now. So for this one, complete the following showing which operation was used, so what's on the sides here. Remember that the same operation must be used for both sides. So 2 of these types of questions, let's go for it. So first thing we're going to do, I'm just going to put a little reminder for myself up above here about BODMAS and the fact that I am going to start at subtraction and addition and reverse that. And again, remember we use opposite operations. So if I have subtraction, I want to do addition. If I have addition, I want to do subtraction, and so on and so forth. So first thing I can see, difference between this line and this line is I have an addition that has gone, it's been taken away. So the reverse of this particular operation is to minus 4. And remember, what I do to one side, I have to do to the other side as well. So let's just color code to make sure that we can see everything in that. So let's have a look. We've got 10 minus 4 does indeed equal 6, and 2x plus 4 minus 4 does indeed equal 2x. Next one, so I've got 2x, which means it's 2 multiplied by x. So to undo a multiplication, I use division. So that's exactly what I'm going to do now, and I'm going to be dividing by 2. And what I do to one side, I absolutely do to the other. And again, let's just show how that is working. So I have my 2. And I'm dividing it by 2, and what I do to one side, I do to the other. So I end up with 2x divided by 2 is just x, and then 6 divided by 2 is 3. Beautiful. Next one. Similar type of process, and again, what I've done with each of these, I've just highlighted where the actual pronumeral is, so you can focus on everything else, and then just get the pronumeral in the end. Okay, let's go for this one. So I've got an addition here, so let's get rid of that. And how do I get rid of that? I minus. I do a subtraction. So again, plus 3 minus 3 cancels each other out. Then I've got 5 minus 3, which gives me 2. And then I'm left with x over 10, which is exactly what I've got here. So I'm dividing by 10 here, but I want to undo this. So if I want to undo that, I need to multiply. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 10. And let's go on with that, shall we? So again, we're going to end up with a process, and we're going to end up with just our pronumeral equaling a number. So if I multiply by 10 on both sides, because remember I'm getting rid of this, so 2 times 10 gives me 20, and x over 10 multiplied by 10, those two cancel each other out, so I just end up with x. That is, however, not my final step, so I'm going to add just one more just so you can see it as well. So the thing that's wrong with this current statement is this actually needs to be over here. So the cool thing we can do about equations is we can quite literally just flip them. So instead of having 20 equals x, we write it as x equals 20 because we have to have our letter followed by our number. Our letter, our pronumeral, equals our value or our number. Next one, again, let's go for these. So again, stepwise approach. We start with, I'm just going to write again my BODMAS. And remember that we are going from, we are going from our subtraction and addition all that way. Okay, so we undo that way, and we use reverse operations. So I'm also going to give myself a little bit of a reminder of what I mean by reverse operations. So if it's plus, I do minus. I've got a little arrow in between. So if it's multiplying, I do division, and vice versa. So we have our opposite operations here, and we have our reverse order in terms of BODMAS to undo our equation so we can solve it. So for this one, the first thing I can see is I want to undo this plus 6. So to undo that plus 6, what I do need to do is minus 6. So remember, what I do to one side, I do to the other. So I'm going to write this one out. So 3t plus 6 equals 18. And what I have done is I have minus 6 from both sides. Again, these two will cancel each other out. So all I'm left with is 3, let's make that nicer, is 3t, and that equal sign. And 18 minus 6 gives me 12. So let's write that 12 in. Now that I've got this, and it's good to actually just work on one part at a time. Now I can see I have my pronumeral here, but let's make that a bit nicer. I have my pronumeral here and here, but I want to have the t just by itself. So this says that I've multiplied by my t, so I have to undo that. So if I'm undoing it, I'm dividing by 3, and what I do to one side, I do to the other. So now I've got 3t divided by 3t divided by 3. That's a mouthful. Those two cancel out, so I end up with t by itself. So we can write that in. So t equals, and then I've got 12 divided by 3, which is 4. Awesome. Moving on to the next one. So I have 9 equals 7b minus 5. So I just want to quickly show you as well, there are two ways that you could do this. You can either flip at the start or you can flip at the end. So I'm going to show you how to flip at the end, and then if you're flipping at the start, it's the same thing, but you just get things a little bit more organized in a different way. So I'll show you both just in case you want to see it. So I'm going to flip at the start. So if I'm going to flip at the start, so I'm going to write flip. So I have to flip my equation. So that means 7b minus 5 equals 9. So I'm going to do that as my first step. Next thing I can see is my pronumeral is here. And next to my pronumeral, I have a subtraction. So to undo my subtraction, I have to add. I do addition. And what I do to one side, I have to absolutely do to the other. So 7b minus 5 plus 5, those two cancel out. So I end up just with 7b equals 9 plus 5 gives me 14. So let's put that in. Next thing, I now have 7b equals 14, and I only want the b by itself. So to undo this multiplication, because remember this means 7 multiplied by b, I have to actually divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by the number in front of the pronumeral, which is 7. And I do that to both sides. So 7b divided by 7 just gives us b by itself. So let's put that one in. So I end up with b, and then 14 divided by 7 equals 2. So again, you can do that one where you flip it at the start. Alternatively, we can flip it at the end. So I'm going to use the same equation. So I have 9 equals 7b minus 5. So again, same as you did before. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add 5 to both sides. And again, I end up with 14 equals 7b, because remember those cancel each other out. And then I'm going to divide by 7 on both sides, and that equals 2 equals b, and then I can flip it to make sure that I have my pronumeral on my left, which is b, equaling my value on my right. So you can flip at either stage as long as you make sure that you do flip. Okay, we have, I believe, 2 more. Okay, so again, here are some other types of questions. First thing I can see, I'm going to deal with the plus 2. So to undo a plus 2, I'm going to have to minus 2. And I do that to both sides. So let's rewrite it out. So I have z on 4, and I have plus 2 equals 6. So I'm going to minus 2 on both sides. And once I do that, these two are going to cancel out. And then I've got 6. So I can rewrite that left-hand side first. So I've got z over 4 equals, because I've done that, those two cancel, I just have that left over. And I have 6 minus 2, which gives me 4. Now I want to get my pronumeral again just by itself. So if I have dividing by 4 here, I have to then multiply by 4 on both sides. So let's do that. So I'm multiplying by 4 on both sides. To make it look nice and pretty, I'm just going to do it at the front here. And again, as long as you do what you do to one side, you do the other. These two cancel out. I end up with Z. So let's write that in. And 4 times 4 gives me 16. And a last one. So again, this is one of those ones where we know we're going to have to flip. So I'm going to show you flipping it first. So let's flip the first. Let's flip as our first step. Might be a good one to practice. So just going to rewrite my question. So I've got 8. Y minus 1 equals 16. So now I've flipped it, I can start dealing with the question. So this means that I have multiplied by 8. So I have to divide by 8 on both sides to undo it, because that's the opposite operation. So I divide by 8 on both sides. So I end up with these two cancelling out, and I just end up with y minus 1 gives me 16 divided by 8, which is 2. So let's write that in, 2. Then this one looks really nice, doesn't it? So if I have minus 1, to undo that minus 1, I'm going to plus 1 to both sides, and then I end up with y by itself, because again, minus 1 plus 1 cancel each other out, and I just end up with y, and then 2 plus 1 gives me 3. And we are done. Just keep in mind with some of these, you may need to prove that your statement that you've come up with is correct. So what you do with that is you would substitute it back into your original statement and check that your left-hand side equals your right-hand side. On to questions.